bit of the room out, so we'll have to be careful today and see, like, make sure not to chase it up. We may have to let the market pull back a little bit before we can start shredding. I hate big gap up days, but it's not a monster gap up, but it's still going to be, you know, maybe like a 0.5%, 0.6%, which does take a little bit of juice out of it, but we should be okay. When you get a normal size gap up like that in the markets, what you need to do is kind of either let the market pull back, or it'll just sit there and kind of sit around for a little bit at the open for an hour, and then it'll go. Or we'll just, you know, play gappers and make sure to keep running the scans and stuff, because there are stocks that are just popping out of nowhere, sometimes that are not even gapping, like BPTH and stuff, where it's like, you know, you don't have it on your pre-market list, and then it just starts to shred out, and, you know, next thing you know, the chase is on. So we'll make sure. That's kind of my bad too. Sometimes I don't keep my scanners on during the trading day, so it makes me overtrade. We'll have to keep them on right now. When you get random stocks pop up that weren't even on your pre-market list, you got to run them double. you gotta keep them going, because you know, you'll miss some of these bad boys. What the fuck, TC2000? I hate when it stalls out like that. There it goes. Let's take a look at the general. Hold on. Let's take a look at our list here. So we got Cron on the list for this trend line break. I won't take any day trades in it until this trend line breaks, though. You are getting tight here, right? When you get the tightening of range, that's what creates power, right? That's what creates the explosion that you need to see. But when you take day trades intraday before the trend line on the daily breaks, your day trades will fail, right? The whole point of aligning on multiple time frames is you need a bigger picture move, right? Some type of pattern break, trend line break, whatever it might be. And then you start to align on a little picture. So if you're starting to take day trades in this thing, but it hasn't broke, then those day trades will fail. It's only once you take out on the bigger picture the resistance, then you can do the smaller term day trades. Always remember that when you guys are taking trades. It's got to have that alignment, or you just get a lot of pattern failure, and that's not as fun. We got Labu still on the list. This has actually been just a good solid trender here. In the last 4 or 5 days, you're consistently getting like 5% plus days, which is awesome. That's like a volatility expansion, a range expansion, which allows for you to have like just a nice daily trader to keep on your list. I still think this one has some juice. The only issue today is you're going to have a $2 gap up. $2 gap up is going to suck up the range. Labu especially, you can't chase it up near highs. You want to let that thing pull back. That's with ETFs in general. 3x ETFs in general, you don't want to hit them at highs. They never follow through there. What you got to do is let them push, then pull back to support, and then, right, once they start to build, right, if it starts to hold over that VWAP, that trend starts to set, then that's when you want to take that thing back to the upside and let it roll. So only this one on pullback. This AMRN looks like a breakout is about to happen at some point. This is a sneaky little fucker too. Like, we forgot about it while it was sitting down over here. And it just started to pick back up recently as it came out of this kind of trend line break over here. Now, the issue to me is going to be, it's starting to get a little bit loose. You know, you're like $2.50 away from your 9 EMA. So do we need to tighten up the range before it can go? Sometimes you could use 1 or 2 days rest. If you have, say, 1 day's rest, 2 days rest, the 9 EMA will probably be up here. And then you're going to have like a much tighter and more powerful breakout. Because if a stock breaks out and you're like $2 from your 9 EMA, and say it breaks out the highs and it rips $2, $3 today, now it's going to be $4 away. At that point, I would, you know, we don't know if that breakout's going to hold. So ideally, you get another day's rest, but you may not get one. You're getting a week open right now. If this thing starts to go red to green and it starts to push, once that trend sets, like this is a bit, you know, like a higher volume, a higher float stock, they put the jets on these things and you'll start to grind it and really break. So I do like this one a lot. Crispy's got a nice base breakout over here. 1 test, 2 test, 3 test, 4 test. This is a former big mover. Issue with this one also is going to be, all right, so close at 40. It's already busted loose to 44. you're going to need to let that thing pull back, let it set, and then you can hit it, all right? Don't chase this one because if you get too close to your 200 SMA, then you're not going to have any upside into it. Crispy also has, like, yesterday obviously had a really nice trend. It does because the volume can thin out during certain times. When the volume thins out during certain times, the rug gets pulled. It can be a little bit whippy. So, watch that one. Now, Fold has a lot of volume. This is going to move probably a little bit more steady and a little grind life. I like this one as it broke over the 200 SMA here. So that's kind of a longer term bottoming pattern. You had about a 50% volume spike in terms of volume expansion, which is always a plus. That's what you want to see. Now, this is not a low float stock. It's a 100 million share float. So it's not going to just like have candles where you move like 10% or 8% or anything like that. Once you get into the 100, 200 million shares, what typically happens is you'll get a nice range for the day, but it'll be a little bit more grind life where, the trend sets and you're just hopping on it. But you won't get like just like a quick spike and a fade and a spike and a fade like a lot of stuff does. This SIFS is on watch too, but frankly, the gap, it might be a little bit too big. It's a day 3. I was hoping for a week open on this, maybe go red to green. At this point, the gap is going to suck a lot of the range out of it, especially on a day 3. I like gaps, but I like a gap on a day 1, maybe even a day 2. On a day 3 and a day 4, once you start to see the gap, it starts to act whippy because people short day 3 gaps, right? Day 3 gaps traditionally, and things have changed a little bit over the last 2 years, but traditionally, a gap on day 3 would be an exhaustion gap that would trigger a rubber band short, right? Some type of snapback. Right now, with the way the market is, day 3s are still going, but it's going to be a lot more choppy. So this is not a focus stock for me. This will be a much watch just to see exactly what goes down. This BPTH is actually, I believe the SSR should have triggered on this thing now. So we'll see at this point what they'll do after a big day. Once you trigger the SSR, you can really kind of trap the shorts. If you start to see this thing kind of melt down a little bit at the open, but you start to base out. You say you hold 650 to 6 and you start to base out, then watch for the squeeze. What'll happen is if you start to get a squeeze on it, you could get a $1 candle on a 5-minute chart really, really quickly. I think when this one goes, it really, really goes. It caught a lot of people off guard on Friday because, well, first of all, it didn't gap, so it wasn't even on people's radar for a little bit after. Then the chase was on, and it didn't give necessarily any good entries except this one flag pattern. And so at that point, the chase is just on. You just got to, hop on the trend and see what happens. Well, I think today you may see this thing. If it doesn't start to, if it gaps down but it doesn't bleed out, and you start to see that stabilization, watch for the squeeze. It'll happen really, really quickly where like you're watching it and you're going to be like, oh, like it's just grinding and it's just grinding. And then the jets turn on and you could be up $2, $3 on it in a matter of 15, 20 minutes. That's the speed that this thing is moving. It can move $2, $3 in a handful of candles. So watch it like after it opens weak. If you start to grind on this bad boy, let that thing squeeze and you're going to have yourself a little fun time. But don't have a bias on this long or short. We don't necessarily know. We'll have to trade the action the way it is because otherwise you can get smoked. And don't oversize on these things. Traditionally, if you run like 5, 6, 7, 10,000 shares on this thing, the bottom drops out. You will not be able to get out fast enough to actually get a tight stop loss. So like, hypothetically, say you enter and you're saying, I'm going to risk 20 cents, and the bottom drops out and you got to market order it, you'll probably lose 50 cents, give or take. So you'll get filled even 20, 30 cents below where you want if that bottom drops out. So that's why you got to kind of scale in properly. And if you start the trend, right, you can build up in it. But don't just be, too balls deep in this thing because, when you have a cheaper stock, you're always thinking I can have a lot more shares. But, when you have too many shares, it really makes you kind of fart around for pennies when you should be playing for dollars. That's always the issue with oversizing. Anytime you have 5, 10, 15, 20,000 shares, right? You're just playing for pennies. You know, you're just playing for pennies, and we're in the game for dollars. So we'll have to be mindful of that. So that's the list for today. This RIV's got a chance too. Right now, turds are just flying. Yangtze River Port, that sounds pretty Chinese to me. So Chinese stocks, this is like SIFs, right? SIFs was hot the other day. This is another kind of turd Chinese stock. It's so 77 million share float here, but I would be shocked if it's actually 77 million share float. The way it's moving around, I would say it's maybe 10 to 15 million, just from, you know, the eyeballing of it. I think this one's got a chance if it can hold above a 1. Watch and see how that sets up. And then, you know, on the gap downside, we got this children's place here, but it's already starting to reverse. I'm not sure. I like when, like, I have a gap down play and they kind of base out near lows. Once they start creeping up, it kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it because you get a hidden level of support. The other Chinese stocks do look okay, but nothing... I don't know if they're ready to roll just yet. To me, they're tweeners. Like, they're kind of in a pattern, but they're not. So, I don't know. I think there's probably some better... I think there's going to be some better plays out there. And, you know, we'll get this thing going. That's the list for today, guys. Okay, what else we got? Who else? Anybody watching? Yeah, we got Rib, Sifs, good. Hey, Josh, how you doing? All day, what's going on? Carlo, ¿cómo estás? Robbie Mack, what's up? Jason, how you doing? You like the CLDR, huh? Yeah, this one's all right. You know, this is a hot sector, too, software application, so I think that one's going to be pretty good, too. Good, good, good. We got a busy week ahead of us, so let's make sure. Zaman's not here today. He took the day off. He claims he's sick. Not buying it, but whatever. When you see him, hassle him a little bit. Let's trade well. As always, I'll be in the chat room, right? I'll be in the chat room hanging out for the next few hours. So if you guys need me, you know where I'm going to be. Also, guys, right, we have a live event in Dallas in a couple weeks. I know some of you guys are going to be going there. We got a nice 2-day show going, so we'll put on an awesome show. So I'll be in Dallas probably the last week of March, I believe. I'll stay for 7-10 days, so anybody around there, anybody that's going to be there, let me know. I'll take you to the Rattler. If anybody's in Dallas, you know where the Rattler is at. Cool, 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 cool. All right, I love you guys. Let's go do what we do. I'll be on tomorrow, and I'll be, you know, in the chat room the rest of the day.